Welcome, 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 everyone, to another adventure into reality, a three-part episode starting today. And once again, I'm joined by Martina Grubmueller, my exquisite, exonerated mentorship student. Welcome to the show again. You got to unmute.
Oh,
There you are. You're
it's okay.
unmuted now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, thanks. Great to be here. Yeah.
Yes. So as we were saying, this is a three-part teaching series. So last Tuesday, we stunned a number of you at the levels that we went to. So if you are here and remember the last Tuesday shows, what were some of the things that you got from that journey? So Martina, we're going to set our intention of what we're intending for them to learn. So part of this is we want you to learn about consciousness, expanded consciousness, understanding the nature of reality, learning about the hub of interconnectivity, and a variety of other subject matters that are going to really make people have to think.
Yeah. I'd like to add the way I look at it as well is I'd like to look at it as a coherent embodiment being the first part of our life, if you wish, then going into like experimentation and expression, then going into integration and transformation, and then going into the void, if you wish, the transcendence bit.
And in that coherence and transcendence spots, we will talk once again about frequency, vibration, harmony, and at the different scales in which we operate within those subject matters. We're also going to be covering about outcreation and forced vibration again, universal laws of attraction, and what is true communication. What real higher self communication looks like. A lot of people going, I don't ever see nothing. Well, sight is the last part of the journey. You've got to learn to smell, taste, touch, understand, and know first. And sometimes we just don't like to listen to our inner selves, higher selves, external selves, because we've become into our little bubble of our own, yes, science says this is it. Life has said this is it. And we can't work outside the brick walls we've created.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, talking outside of consciousness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Inside you, and outside of our own consciousness, because we're not allowing our consciousness into the brick wall, into our own echo chamber.
Exactly. So going beyond the limitations of consciousness, and this is what I really liked on the last conversation where we were talking about harmony, vibration, and frequency being outside of consciousness. And that triggered a lot of questions for me because I thought, wow, we need to zoom into that and actually see what is the difference.
Yes. So everyone, you are going to have homework. That's right. We're going to give you homework at the end of this show. We will be taking calls at the last part of the show. We also want you to take notes for the next 90 minutes. A good student takes notes. A very poor student just sits there and listens in the background and looks at everyone else's notes. That's the chat room. So we are asking you to take notes. Why? We want you to get out of curiosity learning. You hear me say all the time, curiosity is the worst form of learning. Real learning is when your heart and your mind are working together to cognitively process the information that's coming at you. Martina and I are going to work at a very high frequency, vibration, and modulation level, meaning you got to be paying attention in a nonlinear, non-logical, non-agenda-based process so that you can understand the bigger picture, or what I call the 1 million letters celestial alphabet. We're taking a great, powerful 1 million letter set of words and translating into this 26 letter English that you can process and understand.
Yeah, if anyone thinks that I know what he's talking about, I don't know it either. Okay, just to mention. So they go from there.
But there are a lot of things you do know because you can process in the moment.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is, don't get hung up on understanding it on a cognitive level in the beginning, okay? Because it will all get clear as we go along.
Okay.
That's what I said.
So, Robert, there is a document that we're going to be sharing with everyone, actually two. The first document is the notes that we're working off of so people can take their additional notes. And at the end, the homework, which is the Hub of Interconnectivity document. I have used this as a speech many times. If you remember the Hub of Interconnectivity document, go onto the chat room and write yes, no, never heard of it. Oh, yes, it was great. It was about this, this, and this. We're asking for you to jump into your super consciousness now. Okay? So, Robert, where's that document?
Just a quick clarification. I have version 4 and a couple other versions. Which one are we looking at?
Version 4. That's the latest one.
Okay. Do you want a link or a PDF share?
A PDF share.
Okay, great.
And then we'll put it in the link of the show document so when people are listening to the archives, they can get it also.
Cool. And I start reading the intro.
Yep.
And then we get started with the questions. Shall we do that?
Yes. Let's go ahead. Yep.
Okay, cool. So the journeying towards galactic universal citizenship, that's the idea of this three-part series here. We're all working on the journey to becoming celestial mediums of peace with the unlimited point of view as our fundamental foundation. This feat of neutrality requires that we discern duality when it is present without giving it any of our emotional or thought energy by trying to figure out what is actually happening. If you think you won't be able to stand the world in which living is more important than understanding, then give up magic now. From the very first line of Celestial Medium of Peace, I transfer the allness of myself to become the Celestial Medium of Peace. It is our birthright and legacy as a species to explore the mysteries of the intangible, to go beyond the physical aspects of life and to journey into the realms of awareness and other realities that exist simultaneously within the spiritual consciousness and great universal mystery. When you're transcending the I amness, still allowing the I amness in the corporeal body to be the mechanism of manifestation from one higher frequency dimension and density into a lower frequency dimension and density as a direct manifestation from both sides.
A lot of words, but easy to process.
Yes.
The celestial medium of peace. That's a concept that I came up with for the 2017 Living the Mystical Life Daily expanded teachings. Now, the journey to being a celestial medium starts with self-mastery and daily practice. Then after a while, daily practice becomes monthly, yearly, decadely, whatever it is, it turns out to be an extended practice where you've learned how to raise your frequency vibration cyclically within your own days, weeks, months, and years, so you have better control over the overall waveform or pattern of energy that's you over long cycles. And the celestial medium is something you practice when you know you are reaching the peaks of your consciousness expansion through the use of your daily practice and your self-mastery, so you can go through the journey of being a translator of the blue road of spirit, the spiritual energies and the ancestral energies that are working with you, and then the planet that is here, your level of connection and communication to it. And then you reach the next level, celestial medium of peace, where you've elevated yourself and you go through the journey of transferring the allness of your consciousness to become the celestial medium of peace, one who is both operating in the physical, the red and blue road, and then the celestial road also. Knowing that the celestial road has many brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles who are celestial minds. We learn this through astrology, how astrology and the different worlds can affect us. This is many steps beyond astrology. It is working with the celestial minds who have daughters and sons and lineages of people who are incarnating here on our world, incarnating on other worlds, non-physical, physical, entangled and unentangled observers. And we begin to work with a collective of them at the celestial medium level. What needs to be resolved through peace at the minds of how the planets work. Now, Martina, you were first exposed to the celestial medium in the Living the Mystical Life Daily. What was your experience with that?
For me, it's an interesting one because I always work backwards in a way. I always look at, are we in a place of singularity? Are we celestial? Are we the energy of celestial medium? And then all the programming and everything that's obviously being piled onto us through lifetimes and lifetimes is something that we then need to let go and distract in order to come back to that celestial medium. So it's almost like working backwards in a way, I would almost say, would you say that celestial medium being hubs of is very much like being the hub of interconnectivity? It's actually, as we said, it's our birthright and legacy. It's who we truly be. And it's just for us to starting to, it's almost like molding it out of, carving it out of a stone.
Good description of it. There is a linear process, but after a while, that linear process becomes fully nonlinear. And the linear process is self-mastery, understanding the length of your waveform, how strong and potent you are. So when you go through the conscious aware choice to become that intermediate era, that medium between the celestial minds and the surface minds for the generation of subject matters of peace. Yes. How to bring unique concepts of peace to places and spaces in time that are looking for that medium to inspire them to new layers of peace.
Yeah. So it's mastering the I am, the finite I am, and then starting to move into looking at what is the infinite I am, and then bringing it together.
Yes, and once we bring the finite together with the infinite, there's that medium space in which the consciousness is skirting the sides between infinite and finite, taking that million-letter alphabet, compressing it with our precognitive workforce, uploading it to the I am consciously downloading it, processing it, giving it as a manifestation, giving it back to the infinite processing, compressing, download, so on. So this teeter-totter method back and forth where the I am has to process the information, make the manifestation, and then let it back go to the universe, because the human mind and the spirit can't hold on to that information forever.
Yes, and I think what I realized with all of, coming from a place of, in the beginning, you got to get rid of your ego, that is actually not the case whatsoever, because the mentalism, if you wish, the mind is involved in all of that. If you wish, from the first all the way up into the ninth dimension, if you wish, you actually processing through the mind.
Well, the mind and heart are a super highway. There are certain compartments that the mind will process better than the heart, and certain layers of information the heart will process better than the mind. And then there are certain pieces of information that are these puzzle parts that the mind and the heart have to work together.
Exactly. It's that the mind and the heart working together. I just want to blow out that belief system that people think as they're moving on in their levels of awareness, the mind is going to disappear. It's not going to disappear. It's actually starting to work together in communion and harmony, in unity with the heart.
And the mind state, the analogical side, gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
Exactly.
As well as the empowered programs that are with it. That is why that daily work practice is so important.
And this is why the sovereign neutral perspective is so important, because it's the mind that needs to start functioning from a sovereign neutral perspective in order to commune with the heart, because that, and this is what, we're talking here about coming out of, emotional, going into harmony, vibration and frequency. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have emotions after that. It's a new era of emotions.
It's also choosing your states of beingness, in which emotions, there are certain states of beingness, like in the neutral, sacred neutral observer, there is no emotions. That's counterproductive to being in the state. Then there are other states where you're working closely with energetic elements, and they only work through emotions of the celestial mind, who are purposely not using English, so you understand a different wave or band of information that's coming from the celestial mind, who's trying to impart to you many concepts that you have to process as a pattern.
Yes. So we will come back to that. I think there's a question in there. So why don't we just get started?
Sure.
The first question at you. So talking about consciousness, give us your definition. What does actually consciousness mean from your perspective?
It comes down, the most basic thing is choice. Consciousness equals choice. Now, what is choice? We've talked about this over and over again. In this holographic reality, that is 100% free will universe and a 100% free will galaxy and a 100% free will solar system on a 100% free will planet that has an above and a below timeline, a surface above and a below timeline that are all 100% free will. That means you are choosing at every layer and scale of awareness in your known and unknown side. Consciousness is to be the known side's choice process, but the consciousness has an unconscious state, our bodies, which have an unknown side to the consciousness, in which, like zeros and ones, we're constantly creating this binary code of knowing, not knowing, knowing, not knowing, until the mind and the heart, or the body, mind, and spirit, as a complex being, begin to generate an algorithm of decoding the information around you. That's its most basic form. Now, there are dimensions of thought, densities of awareness, densities of beingness too. Those concepts, in the very beginning, consciousness is choice. And you're equal to your level of responsibility via your awareness of your own consciousness. And many people try to jump ahead and be responsible for things they're not aware yet, which finds their minds bogged down with all these subject matters that are all these choices. They don't even know the implications of the choice that they're making.
Yes. So can we say there's a planetary consciousness? You know, if
Yes.
we take the Earth, the connection, the Schumann resonance, the connection, the human, the body, the vagus nerve, that is part of that consciousness, the planetary consciousness. And
so you could see the planet as a waveform, and we are the subcarriers within that wave. There's a master waveform that's operating at a much longer spirit length of time. And inside that waveform is all the individuals who are their own subcarrier or observer of that era of light or time. And the celestial mind is operating on a much longer expansive view of time and timelessness.
Okay, so this brings us back to, we are obviously operating within time and space, consciousness within time and space, and then there's the consciousness outside of time and space. And can we call that what, the universal consciousness?
For simplistic state, it is the ocean of awareness that has the individual of universal experience in it. And the universal experience will become a micro being on a celestial planet that chooses forgetfulness to become finite as part of a universal evolving experience.
So what do we call that? Because when you were saying like...
The avatar, who operates many I ams in time and outside of time.
And that's outside of consciousness.
Or in the sea of consciousness, universal ocean of awareness, whatever you want to call it. And you can have more than one avatar. Because you can be thousands of beings in thousands of places, spaces, and time forward and backwards throughout all time, space, history, and universes. You know, you have to see it like a giant network pattern of choice operating at a much longer time scale versus a much shorter time scale.
I like what you said. Consciousness is choice. I think that's something we can actually build on at some stage. That's something quite a big thing.
So Paul is saying here, is there a relevance of the subconscious mind? Yes. The choices we make out of tacit consent to live in a shared reality rules. Our bodies have another function in this kind of bubble of reality. Our 0 and 1 side, the subconscious side, it's monitoring our breathing, our pulse. It's doing all of those subconscious choice points, as well as many tacit consent concepts, such as agreeing to the payment of debts, social, cultural structures, and the energies that come in and out of your body, and accounts receivable and sendable in the unseen world that influences the conscious choice in unawareness or awareness, depending on what path of awareness you're on.
Well, it's the arena of the limitations, if you wish, the limitations of consciousness, the subconscious. It carries all the programs.
Let's expand on subconscious for a second, because we've talked about the vagus nerve. It is the center house of all of your experiences as a psychic being.
Mm-hmm. So the subconscious mind, what does it do?
It makes those choices for you that in unawareness, like heart rate, breathing, etc.
Mm-hmm. And it also runs your body and your life at times, because it carries all the programs at the same time.
It houses all the programs that are there to create self-defeating habit patterns or self-growth patterns.
Exactly. So the work that we are actually all doing in terms of emotional mastery and sovereignty and all of that is getting rid of the subconscious programming which are all in the subconscious. Mm-hmm.
Now, opposite of the subconscious is the sympathetic and the concept sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic is not necessarily limited to your conscious choice. It's really what is linked to your empathy patterns to cultural idiosyncrasies in the world or personal idiosyncrasies. Many people have over empathy and they wear it like a badge of honor. I'm an empath. I feel everything. I'm super spiritual. Bullshit. That's your sympathetic side running your reality. Yes, the parasympathetic is a part of it, but it's more like allowing the surfer who's on the surfboard to guide things around. The subconscious is the wave, and the sympathetic or the sympathetic side is the actual guy on the board. That's the difference.
So this is interesting, because I actually always associated the sympathetic with the subconscious.
It is. It's again, what's the difference between the surfer and the surfboard and the wave?
Yes, okay. Yeah.
And the journey of prayer is that I'm in the zone, I'm the surfer who's found a wave.
Say this again.
The journey of prayer is being the surfboard, the surfer who has found a wave.
Mm-hmm. So where does choice come into all of that?
Getting on the surfboard, mastering the surfboard, getting out there over and over and over again and trying until you have that euphoric release of riding the wave.
And in addition to that, obviously, if the waves are not great in that particular area, then you go somewhere else.
Right. Or you have a self-defeating habit pattern that only puts you out on calm days, and you're only working with 1 foot waves and your euphoria is not that high.
Yeah.
Okay. Versus going out in a thunderstorm, the dark night of the soul, and riding the 100-foot waves with no proper protective equipment.
Mm. It could be quite interesting too, that. So what we've got here, what have as I've written on the document, a state of quality of awareness of all that is, was, and ever will be, or of being aware of an external object or something within oneself without the need of subjugation. So I think that comes from the place of saying, which I used to say, consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. which brings in the sovereign neutrality, that teaching.
Mm-hmm. So state it as a question.
What
you just said.
Does consciousness include everything and judge nothing?
So judgment is unique. So there are certain states of awareness that still use judgment, even though they're very high frequency. Example, you have forced evolution with a variety of species behind it who are very judgmental, highly technological, highly spiritual, but they're not in 6th density or 7th density, but they have some of the teachings that can make it look like they're there. So they can be very judgmental. Judgment is one of those ongoing challenges all consciousness will go, because the making of something absolute the way it is a necessity to solidify concepts, but it can be the linchpin that can defeat greater states of awareness. So in our state here, judgment is necessary. The learning of making a judgment not absolute is the next level of advancing our awareness to allow judgment to still be a teacher that doesn't limit us, so things can be conclusions that have a level of open-endedness.
Yes. And that's obviously going back to how much of the consciousness is entangled with that judgment. If it's an observational judgment as such, where you don't have your emotional involvement that is ciphering off your energy, then that's a different type of, that's I call that awareness.
But there are certain states of high aware beings who are very judgmental. So
that's interesting, because we never look at that really. Mm-hmm. Well, we do, because we do know that there are a couple of baddies out there.
Well, no, there's goody two shoes out there who are very judgmental. They've gone so far into the realm of being good, their way of being good is really the only way they want things to be.
So that's a little bit what you're saying here, is that's what's going on in Inner Earth now, isn't it? They're having all these huge
philosophical debates over ideology at the universal and galactic level of implementation.
Yes.
Who do we teach? How do we teach the next 10 eras of light? And the last 10 eras of light have taught us this about non-interference, non-judgment, but we're beginning to learn those guys that taught us had a lot of judgment on both sides.
Exactly.
Oh, and then we learned there was a 3rd, 4th, and 5th side they didn't want us to know about.
And that's really important to actually acknowledge, because whilst we are changing our DNA here, whilst our I am technology is changing through the changes in the through us crossing the galactic plane and everything, there's a lot going on in Inner Earth, and obviously above too, where they're having negotiations. So this is why it is really important for us now to get into that celestial medium of peaceship, because we are here, it's affecting us, and we can do something about this.
Right. And if the guys in Inner Earth are negotiating for us, we want representatives there. And if the guys up there are negotiating for us, we want representatives up there.
Exactly.
Thus the need for the celestial medium, who can use a frame of reference from the home worlds and home dimensions and densities of these other beings trying to negotiate a universal form of peace, or a armistice, or whatever you want to call it. We need to be involved in all of the density layers of those negotiations.
So, and this is also, to start thinking beyond the domination and control that we are experiencing in this reality, and actually start taking responsibility for the level of awareness that we have, that stuff is going on outside.
So taking responsibility is a unique concept we face during this awakening. Now, many other worlds have gone through awakenings, and they didn't have this level of responsibility immediately on their shoulders to go through mass traumatic healing, ×4 timelines, a system of domination and control that's been refined through tens of thousands of other worlds of awakenings, and then millions of species on both sides who are literally imprinting upon us choice without us knowing they're imprinting choice on us.
Well, and also the thing is, it's always easy, I always say it's easy to choose between A and B that is presented, but there are so many other choices that we have to first bring into our awareness that they are there.
Which is the power of responsibility equal to your level of awareness. Now, everyone's going to have a different level of responsibility equal to their awareness, but their ego is going to judge them more or less.
Yeah, and it's also what we are starting to talk about now is allowing yourself to go to the edge of unknowingness, because the known is already, we always go back to the known. We need to allow yourself to go into the edge of the unknowingness in order to start getting to that level of awareness.
Right. And that journey, hold on one second, that journey of being in both places and spaces is allowing non-judgment to be there so you can expand awareness. All right, so if you guys are listening on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope and want to come and be a part of the actual in-chat where we take questions from the chat room, you've got to go to this zoom.us. All the information to join is up on the screen. The meeting ID number is 911-001-1974. If you want to call in and listen, as well as being a call-in caller via a regular phone, all the phone numbers are there on the right side. If you're looking for the documents, at the end of the show in the YouTube video, the documents will be posted in the link description, or you can ask in the chat and Robert will repost both of the documents. The first document is the one we're working off of, the notes, and the second one is the homework, the hub of interconnectivity, which we'll be going over at the end of the show. We will be taking calls today, the last half hour. So Martina, our journey into understanding responsibility. Let's look at the word responsibility. Does that mean you have to react all the time?
No. Response, ability. So let's take it apart. It's the ability to respond
to a stimulus, seen and unseen, or intuitively that isn't stimulus, but is greater awareness and is preparing a spiritual strategy that goes through states of understanding what this intuitive energy coming at you is, was, or will be.
Yes. And I would also say this is where the freedom lies. If you have trust in yourself that you will have the ability to respond whatever gets thrown at you.
And this brings up a lot of break in faith, which is really a break in your responsibility. And we talked before about understanding how spirit works with you, through you, and trusting that journey is a responsibility to yourself.
Yeah. And we have something, this is where we then have to start getting out of cognitive functioning, out of trying to understand, and actually starting to have the experience.
Right.
Allowing yourself to have an experience. So let's carry on then, maybe.
Okay.
Go down there. Okay, so let's just, we have a question here. So what are the consciousness entanglements that limit our experiences as infinite beings? We've covered a few already, but.
Breakage of faith. That's a big limiter. Confusion of sexuality. That's another really big one. Domineering state of being. That's another one. The obvious ego in unawareness. Narcissism. A variety of the major religions that limit our capacity to have our own sacred moments.
Yeah, culture. I've got that down as culture. And I suppose, the validations that we have through our belief systems. And it's interesting, even if you don't have if you don't believe in certain things, it's also everything what we've got in this reality is almost coded into the language. So language is a huge limitation to the consciousness, as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I always, I'm not a native English speaker, so I always take the energy of a word and look at it from an energetic instead of, there's so much coding in, and that's the subconscious.
So cultural taboos have a secret coding in them that determines how your DNA will respond to that repetition. Example, if you're Muslim, you're going to have certain ways that the women in your culture are treated versus an Indian that has another version versus a British person versus a South African person. Or use racism. You're brought up in a culture that subtly teaches racism, and you don't think you have racist tendencies until you're around those people all the time, and those subconscious habit patterns come out, and it shows how limiting you are in their capacity of other people.
Yeah, so that's all collective consciousness, and this is what vibration, frequency, and harmony teaching takes you outside of.
Correct, because consciousness, frequency, vibration, and harmony is not consciously entangled. And that's the other part of what keeps people out of that zone of greater trust, faith, spirituality, is they're always trying to cognitively process the infinite.
Yeah, and that's obviously indoctrinated through the educational system, as far as because this education nowadays has nothing to. It's very different to what it was a couple hundred years ago. Because education now is all about political correctness.
Now, by the last 8 to 12 years, political correctness has gone to the extremes because it's a very powerful tool at allowing divisiveness to create more separation.
Yes, but look at the teachings, like the native teachings, how education was transmitted. It was through stories. It wasn't that, it was for people to actually make up their own minds by mythology and all of that. It's a very different type of teaching now.
Yes, but none of the indigenous teachings had any teachings on LGBTQ personalities. They maybe had a God-type figure that had both sex, but there were no gender identification indigenous teachings, were there? No, there weren't. Is it a necessary awareness journal? Yes. LGBTQ conceptualizing allows the cultures to be broken down into their judgmental factors.
Yeah, and everything is obviously evolution of awareness,
Correct.
So here we go, yeah.
Because in general, the indigenous people did not see man-on-man love as beneficial. Very few cultures allowed it, very, very few. Or woman-on-woman. It was, you were killed, even in the indigenous cultures. So they were judgmental back then because their consciousness only allowed working with the natural way that they knew. Many of the indigenous cultures could not adapt to the changing of times. And the ones that did survived.
Would you say that the increase now that we are experiencing is that we are going back into neutral perspectives, and this is part of the facilitation of it?
That's the inevitable journey, yes.
Yes.
Yes. And when I say inevitable, it's just a matter of time or no time until a set of conclusions come to you about neutrality and not holding charge and polarity out of a conscious choice.
Yes, so that brings us back to choice, consciousness being choice.
Yeah. In this 100% free will universe, galaxy, solar system, planet that has 3 timelines, it's all about choice, seen and unseen, aware and unaware.
Yeah, and how many people are being brought up with choice?
Very few are brought up with a 12 to 15% example of how much choice you have at any given second.
Exactly. And it's not being taught at schools either,
And it very could. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th grade shouldn't be about reading, writing, English. It should be about animal communication, spatial awareness, art concepts, music, and the generation of languages.
Yes. That's what I was trying to say earlier on, going back to a slightly different way. And we'll see. It's all going to happen. We'll all go full circle anyway, you know.
Well, the whole concept of the dragon eating its own tail, but
Exactly.
inevitably the dragon bites off a part of its tail, and you have a tail flipping in the wind, bleeding, and that's where we are right now. The dragon's about to
Yes.
rebite the tail and then slowly pull it through, and it's going to lose the tail again. And it's going to get it again.
Yes. That's a interesting picture now I've got in my head.
You ever seen something try to eat its tail? It hurts after a while. They got to let go.
Ouroboros, yeah, I've got a couple of those. I found a few of those. Okay, so what's the next thing here? I've got holographic projection, interactions, and knowingness. How do we coherently express our frequency in geometric sacred space within the superconsciousness?
First thing first, sexuality and prayer are the built-in methods this reality have given us to have coherent resonance with geometric holograms of information that we can decode, process, and use to our awareness advantages, built into your DNA.
So if we don't pray, we don't have sex, we have a problem.
Yes.
So whatever is easier for you guys, start with that.
So sex is not only copulation.
Yes.
It is knowing that that sacred energy is you in there with you. That's a very dense energy that has to be used in the many forms of love that can be expressed. And
I think
copulation isn't the only form of love. Okay.
Well, I think that's one of the most important distinction one has to actually make. Copulation has actually nothing to do with sexualness or sexual or sex or sexual sensualness. Yeah, there's so many different sexes to look at, and don't get this the wrong way, but you can have look at a little baby and feel the sensualness of the baby. You know, it's a creative energy. So, you know, the things that you surround yourself, you know, the things that you learn about, all of that has that sexual expression, you know, so that's something, you know.
So the other concept is procreational energy for non-procreational energies. This is something that greatly confuses people. So that journey into the greater awareness is understanding how to use your energy as a conscious being of choice. Okay? Example, there are many musicians who have channeled much of their sexual energy and traumas and pains with sexual energy to create songs that have healed millions. Okay?
Everything that we are creators, so we are sexual energy, if you wish.
Yes, we are born of it.
Everything we do, every document you write, every discussion you have, there is that energy that is creating something.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so why did you bring this up for the holographic projection?
Because how does a spirit become a part of this reality?
Yes.
A sperm and an egg meet. Two holographic projections and a shared reality rule creates an additional something new to the hologram. But in holographic teaching, everything is already there, right? So how does something new become part of the hologram? And we start in that divine bliss state where the infinite code is in the celestial mediumship, but at the celestial mediumship, stepping down into the fetus and then going through the laws of forgetting so it doesn't have access to its infinite side. So it's a part of this hologram as a non-infinite being who's on the journey to celestial mediumship again.
Yes. And then coming back as a celestial medium, coming back into the blissful state, into that place of abundance, into that place of joy.
And that place of bliss is something we are forever trying to get back to. All the great spiritual teachings since the dawn of spirituality have a bliss teaching. Why? Because it's a fundamental part of our growth.
Well, and it's our innate, it's our birthright, it's the, if you wish. of our expression.
Okay, because inside that fetus in the womb state is that locality, non-locality teaching. You are both.
Yes.
And what makes us any different than the fetus right now?
The limitations that we've been, well, the cognitive minds, all everything that we bought into.
The memories we've stored in light. Let's break it down to the most simplest thing. The memories we've stored in light. As a fetus, we have the infinite set of memories and potentialities in the blueprint we've created, with the actual linear memory process and the nonlinear memory creation process as a being who's going through forms of awareness as the I am unpacks and uncodes itself during different eras of its history.
Yes, and then we add the chemical memories, right?
Right, which are there to enforce linear time.
Yes.
So spiritual contracts with individuals in individuated time can come to fruition.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's do experience versus cognition. We were talking about this early on. When you get to that level, what is daily practice? What can we do?
So experience versus cognition. So what's the nature of an experience? And we want everyone in the chat room to write and try to answer this question. What is the nature of an experience? Now, there's a lot of context that can be used to answer this, or there are many right answers. And to say that there's only one right answer is wrong. There are many, many right answers. But it's knowing the nature of consciousness and choice to help you use the context to create this answer, because Martina and I are leading you somewhere, back to that celestial medium journey. So what is the difference between cognition So we've got a lot of experience, cognition and experience. So the experience comes after the cognition. That's a mechanical process. Unless precognition is a part of it, then the experience is there before you've had the cognition. That's the nature of precognition. So linearity is not always a part of the experience. But some experiences require linearity to be unpacked so you can have the precognition experience that's layered outside of linearity. So what do you have to add to experience and cognition?
Well, for me, when I look at that is we are constantly experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Every breath you take, every word you speak.
Every breath, you know, whilst you sleep, whilst you're awake. And the cognition for me is actually bringing that experience into your awareness.
Not always. Sometimes there's very passive experiences, such as sun tanning, that can create non-linear light-based memory experiences.
For me, that is the journey to bring those experiences into cognition. Because, you know, I'm for me, the understanding is that we all have experiences all the time, and we are missing out on actually almost. But this is maybe a limitation that I carry still, because for me, it's the, you know, I've come from this cognitive background that having to understand things and knowing it in order to enjoy it, you know. So it's almost like there's a limitation there where we think we have to cognitize things in order to experience it.
Uh-huh.
So what is all that? Can we get rid of that?
The essence of the experience can be understood. Now, there are certain experiences that you can't cognitify, like having sex and not having sex. Okay, life before you learned how to drive, life after you learned how to drive, where the experience itself is an ongoing, evolving process of understanding that part of the journey. Example, everyone's had a bath in their life. Let's say I say, you need to go take a hot, relaxing bath. Let's say you start the bath, you've done the energy, you put it into it, but for some reason, you don't get into the bath. Have you still had the experience of the bath? Yes, from all your other baths.
Yes, it's a bit like going into a grocery shop and just looking around and saying to the body, just take in whatever you would like to eat, and
right.
not actually having to buy it, because the body has the capacity to experience it without ingesting it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? Is that still an ego limitation then, that you want to bring it into what I was saying earlier on?
Density of choice, it influences the level of experience.
Okay,
if there's a lot of drive to have the experience will be more rich for the body, mind, and spirit as a complex organism. But if the drive is not very much, because we've done it thousands of times before, it's not going to have the same value as something we really want to do that is changing us. Thus, why having joy behind your daily practice is such a hard journey for everyone, because not everyone can live in joy 24/7, 365. The world's not set up that way.
And it's not required, to be honest,
It helps. It makes it a lot more fun, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So that, I think it depends again how you define joy. I mean, the joy for me is again, it's a form of expression that it's almost neutrality can be joy too. It doesn't have to be like,
neutrality can't be joy. Neutrality is a non-state of experiential emotion. Nothing sticks, but allows you to observe the infinite as an experience in light we can process later that can have things that stick. It's a state of beingness. The journey to joy makes it a lot easier to get into the neutral state.
Yeah.
Not the fundamental thing that maintains the state.
Yeah. Neutrality does not create as such.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It observes.
Yes.
Now, bliss is different than joy. How is bliss different than joy?
For me personally, I'd say bliss is probably more life force entangled than joy. Joy is more like a space of beingness, whereas bliss is more ecstatic. It's more expressive.
Okay. Bliss also can be right on the fence of being a chemical experience and a non-chemical experience.
Yes.
Okay. So bliss has a higher density in the nature of whatever you're experiencing in that blissful state.
Yes.
So Sylvia's saying bliss you can't invoke easily as joy. I beg to differ. When one is in the daily practice of using joy on a regular basis, bliss is your birthright and legacy at any given breath or blink. Living the blissful life is easy when you allow it over long periods of time as part of your daily routine and habit pattern.
And again, it's probably one of those words I would have to look at. I personally would look at over a period of time, asking the question, what does bliss actually mean to me? What does it look like? It's very easy
yeah. Let's actually ask that to the audience. What does bliss look like for you or feel like for you?
Yeah. We all know what anger looks like or feel like. So what does bliss feel like? Yeah.
So Marissa says, get your feet on the dirt and dance. Feels pretty blissful.
Mm-hmm.
Fountains of expanded energy moving through higher states of beingness in the heart. Non-linearity, non-local experiencing is bliss for you out of choice because you need that dual, non-dual experience, which creates a bliss in you because fuck it, I got the infinite already. Damn it, I did it. That's bliss. That experience is powerful in you. Now, innocent children experience bliss all the time. Even when they're in a little temper tantrum, they're experiencing bliss.
That's so easy for them to snap out of and then just totally change state like that, isn't it?
Have you have a child. Have you ever seen your child in a frustrating temper tantrum moment, yet you know they're still getting pleasure out of it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I can actually say, even apply that to myself, to be honest.
Okay.
When I choose to go into a little thing, I'm actually enjoying it because I do it out of choice.
You do it out of choice. And you understand the nature of the experience you're choosing.
Yeah. But to be honest, this is not something that I had to learn and practice that too,
Right.
Because it's no longer a reaction as such, it's an ability to respond that gives me the freedom because I'm choosing it.
Because you've had so many experiences that have taught you need these different states as a part of your ongoing growth and awareness.
Exactly. And it's you can do this after you come out of the space of judgment.
No, you can do it even in the space of judgment.
For me, judgment was a big thing because I was, there was so many things. My journey was through the judgment. So I'm now starting to understand what you're saying with judgment, because for me this was a no-go, no judgment.
Okay.
And I started.
I'm going to ask a question, make a statement question here. Can you be blissful in your judgment?
Now I can, because I'm starting to practice that too. Now I can.
Now, there are many people who are blissfully ignorant. I've used that statement already many, many times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're bliss.
Bliss. Ignorance is bliss. Isn't that the saying, Yeah.
Okay. Blissfully judgmental is a oxymoron, but it is part of the journey into greater awareness of your responsibility of judgment to itself.
Yeah.
If you're getting bliss out of your judgments, well, obviously there's something going on with you that you got to work on. Many people get addicted to the blissful state and stop their growth. How many love and lighters out there don't pay their bills until they get kicked out of their house? I use that metaphor all the time. You can't live on love and light. You can't live in the blissful state all the time until you learn how bliss and cognitive coherence work together as a strategy, long term.
Back to responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And responsibility can be a blissful state too.
Good. Do you want to go to the next question?
Sure. Go on, shoot.
I've got signature frequency teaching here. And that for me, when I started looking at judgment, and the signature frequency teaching now replaces the judgment for me, the old way of how I looked at judgment. Okay. So, and we have got a question there. So what does being present really mean?
Ooh, now there's many ways to answer this one. First thing first, presence is a choice that is in a state where the I am is inside the body, actively choosing to be in the moment of now without strategy and agenda. So the infinite moment of now can be I am realized. That is an I am realized state of presence, who is processing the state of presence as an ever-evolving moment-to-moment living.
Okay, so this is the I am being fully in the vagus nerve.
Well, more than the vagus nerve. It's more than that. You're in all the mitochondrial power plants, fully empowered there to experience the mighty moment of the now.
Okay, and that mighty moment of the now can be outside of time, linked to outside of time.
Inside, outside, and many other linears and nonlinear expressions of time, yes.
So that simultaneous living.
Yes, simultaneous living.
In the present moment, yeah. Okay. So that goes with the signature frequency teaching of saying this is when you are actually in harmony, vibration, and frequency.
Out of a non-cognition choice.
Out of a non-cognition choice, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we have spoken a little bit about harmony, vibration, frequency, and I think you need to say a little bit more about that, because I just did remember the stone thingy, but I think there's much more we can say about that.
Okay, let's break down frequency. What is frequency
Yes.
for you? What is frequency for you?
Well, frequency, the way I understood it was that spark, is the spark, the intensity, the potency. Vibration.
Keep going on frequency alone.
On
Just
frequency
allow
alone.
yourself lateral.
Is the impact.
Lateral, yeah.
Okay, so basically, if you say, whatever, let's say you are making a statement and it creates a spark, cognitively or actually not cognitively, obviously, it doesn't have to be cognitized right away. It could be an experience at that stage that only becomes a cognitive understanding at a later stage. But
it's a solidified memory.
A memory in light, even.
Yes, that's solidified later.
Yes.
So frequency is that potent power behind one blink in the middle of a speech that affects everyone.
Yes.
Frequency can be 9 words in the speech. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. The Martin Luther King speech. In his frequency of being present in his body, fully in his central nervous system, broadcasting his light out of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Frequency will determine how much you can set other beings to raise their frequency or burn fuel, stagnant fuel, to raise their frequency too. Now, vibration.
So hold on.
Okay.
That frequency doesn't imply, words or anything. As you say, it could be a breath, it could be a blink of an eye. It comes from your beingness.
Your presence in the body, yes, and how much light you're exuding.
Yes. Okay. How much light you're exuding. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you were saying something that you could be a high frequency being in a low density.
In a low vibration.
In a low vibration.
Right. Meaning you spike and then you drop. You spike and then you drop. You spike and you drop.
Okay. So let's talk about vibration, then let's go back to this one.
So vibration is the amount of I'm always in my body, that's you. That's the longer waveform where frequency spikes up really high. You could produce a lot of light, like a lighthouse, whom, whum, versus your vibration is always putting that much light out or putting that much light out.
Mm-hmm.
How present you are as a DNA instrument of experience.
Mm-hmm. So this is how the frequency and the vibration work together.
Correct. Can vibration be the container? Technically, we can use that, but the body is an instrument of experience and vibration is an experience too. Frequency is an experience also, but they may not be cognitive experiences when relating to the universal laws of frequency, vibration, and harmony, because there is no cognition when you're making signature frequency match to the moments of now.
Okay. Do we have any other questions on those?
Harmony. Harmony is how you can non-cognitively match the environment around you's frequency, vibration, and pattern moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment in a non-cognitive, non-linear, non-pattern recognition way where you naturally are in harmony with that blade of grass, that tree. I'm not in harmony with that door. I don't like this. I don't like that. Those are cognitive, but you can be in non-harmony with these projections from the natural and unnatural world to you.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things to stay in that frequency, harmony, vibration in a coherent, level is obviously to stay in the sovereign neutral as much as possible. Not to stay in the sovereign neutral, but to have that unlimited point of view in order
That's
arise.
That part's still a choice.
Mm.
You got to go into the non-choice to understand the true raw frequency, vibration, and harmony. There is a non-cognitive, non-choice part of you that's in this reality that has a base harmony, frequency, vibration that is influenced by how much we are creating based experiences as an ever-evolving being moment to moment to moment, who may be aware or unaware.
Okay. Is it also related to the skin suit that you've chosen to?
Very much. Your skin suit has certain things it's programmed to be harmonized with. That's that other part of the 20%.
That's the other part of the 20% that is not
not memories, yeah.
And it's not agency. So what is that percentage?
So 80% memories and 20% other things.
Yeah.
The harmony, frequency, vibration makes up about 7% of it, and the remaining 13% are how spiritual codes, contracts unfold in linear and nonlinear time, what agents and agencies you work or don't work with, as well as how non-time beings can consciously entangle with a time-based you to create a brand new contract that is needed for change, or auditing of the self, so during dark nights of the soul we can survive.
Yes. Okay. Which then has an impact, obviously, on the signature frequency that
right.
you have. Yeah. So is it any point to go into those 7% and actually start looking at that? How much of influence do we have on that in terms of?
You have more influence over.
Want to know?
You have more influence over on all of them than you really know, because conscious choice can change them all. But at the state of this conversation, it's minutia and hair splitting.
Yeah.
And for a lot of it, there's probably not going to be an actual language other than a metaphor or a hypothetical stance that we can take that can begin to describe why rung number 743 is going to make you harmony with Trump or not in harmony with Trump or Boris Johnson or whoever a linear being is that has a greater representation in your era of history.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So what else have we got on harmony, frequency, and vibration then?
So it creates an equation in which the conscious mind is consciously trying to entangle out of choice. Now that is a separate journey. Signature frequency match for the moment of now has the non-cognition and then the cognition process. The agenda us, who is always trying to force matches.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Out of choice. Choice is technically forcing the universe to conform. But there are certain choices that are backed with daily practice, self-mastery, bliss, joy, and all those other things that aren't really forcing, but allowing the spirit of God in the universe to work with us, through us, in a non-competition based process. So synchronicities can be aligned that create blissful awareness experiences. And we don't control them out of a need to just control them.
Yes. Do there any particular, practices that come to mind with regards tailored for this in particular, or can we?
Well, there's all sorts of guided meditations that you can help understand the pendulum of it's out of your control. There's the base harmony, frequency, vibration that you always are because you've created a pattern long before you were awake. And then there's conscious choice who's trying to create a pattern out of conscious choice. So defining the two sides and having a part in the middle that says don't compete with the two sides.
So I've actually I was just thinking of something here. So listening to music. I used to go to gong baths and musical bowls and all of that. And I do remember those big gongs, that you get. When I first had the experience, it absolutely threw me. I could not handle that vibration, frequency, and harmony at all because there was too much going on with regards.
Too much sensory input for you.
Well, I think it was based on all the programs because it brought up so much. It had all sorts of visions going on, which almost led me to leave the place. I do remember that a couple of years ago. And that was an interesting way of looking at it because I looked at that and said, so what is that? And I kept going back to these and used that toning, if you wish, to help me as a practice to get over whatever needed to come out, to release those programs, to become a match.
So in the reference as the experience of a gong bath, you are being bathed in frequency, vibration, harmony, disharmony, chaos, everything simultaneously, which puts your programs on the defense because programs can't actually process a lot of information. They can only process what they're there for. And as soon as they're processing something they can't, they cede authority to other programs who might, but in fact, all the programs are ceding authority back to you.
Yes.
And at that particular moment in your area, being in your body was a challenge because all the programs were constantly taking your authority before you.
Yes.
And you use that to be in the body.
Yes. So that would be a good practice to look at and see how your body reacts to that.
Any form of sound therapy. That's why I use the out loud, name it to claim it system. That right away allows you to do what? Be a frequency, vibration, and harmony of expression.
Yes.
That says to the programs, this is me, in me, and you're not in me, you're a part of me.
Yeah. So this is also why we're always saying record your own voice.
And listen.
Listening to it. And that has made a huge difference. And we all know whoever's done that. The first time you record your voice, you think, oh my God, who is this? And then.
Because you've got to go through the cognition of your own frequency, vibration, and harmony as a subconscious match or non-match.
So that's another good practice there. Okay. Good.
Now, other things, swimming in the ocean, boating on a lake, so walking, exercise, athleticism to an extent.
Connecting with nature.
Sacred places, ceremony. We could go on and on and on. It's all about, is it a conscious entanglement to go and do it? Or is it just something that allows an experience? Like there are many people that have no idea they live next to a sacred place, but it's constantly affecting them.
Yeah. It's basically getting the stagnant electromagnetic energy that is created through thought and feeling out of the body, getting that expelled and expunged, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that you can become that match to vibration, harmony, and frequency.
Out of a conscious entanglement, and then the non-cognitive process, the two different sides.
Yeah. So let's ask the next question. How do feelings lower the harmonic wavelengths? We touched that a little bit last time already.
How do feelings lower harmony wavelength? Very carefully. Certain feelings have a certain vibration that you put out that alters your light. Anger. It can raise your frequency and your vibration, but it will push things away from you, or look to match something with you immediately so that anger goes from you into something else and from something else back into you, getting back to the law of charge and polarity.
Yes, charge and polarity, exactly. Which then makes you a perfect target for energy harvesting.
Or negative thoughts, feelings, creation of internal demons.
Yeah. So this is one of the main reasons why we say, you know, coming out of that life force life force emotional charge, polarity and charge, so that you are actually stepping out of that harvesting, stepping out of that polarity and charge, basically.
Once we step out of the zone that I could be harvested, it means your daily practice has meant something to you over an extended period of time that creates a vibration in you that's ever present, that denies low vibration, but high frequency beings of interfering with you. So take that apart. Low vibration, but high frequency interference.
So high frequency, we were saying the spark, the potency, low vibration, the length of time here. So you were saying like high frequency beings.
Negative beings. But low vibration.
And low vibration.
We experience it all the time.
So how would they impact on our consciousness, on us, on our signature frequency?
They hit us with a high frequency wave that we respond by lowering our frequency to their level. So
would that be, give us an example, is that like false synchronicities or something?
Let's say you have a person who's not in charge of their I amness, has a ghost in them, and that ghost is hungry, and it influences that person to blow up on you in a road rage incident, fooling you of sending all this toxic rage at you. And that road rage incident, you scream back, you give him the middle finger. What happens?
Well, you either call it or you entangle with it. That's the question.
Most people, as soon as you scream back, it's fed off of you.
They back off, yeah.
No, it's fed off of you. The interfering being has feeding off of both sides.
Yeah.
Because there's an exchange, there's an exchange of charge and polarity. A high frequency exchange of charge and polarity.
So how does one respond to that high frequency, low vibration attack?
When the energy hits you, conscious being of choice goes, I can respond in many different ways, but I'm not exchanging energy.
Okay, and that's just the choice you make as an intention.
Right. Well, there's baby intentions. There's baby intentions, adult intentions, and then a practice disciplined person whose daily practice, monthly and yearly practice has defined to them that they can make that as a subtle choice all the time.
Okay. So this is interesting because I often do talk to people, and when they're switching into internal demon, and that's when I just basically make that choice. And I think I make that quite subconsciously. I just do that automatically. I do not entangle with that. This conversation is over, and I just basically do that. So, okay, so let's talk a bit more about this out vibrating, because that's an out vibration. You out vibrate the low vibration, if you wish. What other things can we do to actually out vibrate people in a conversation. Or, it doesn't have to be a conversation. It could be a thought process, it could be anything.
So just who you are can out-vibrate a person.
Yes.
But that usually triggers competition in the other person.
Yes. Well,
so
we all know that, yeah.
So understanding equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical as a state of emanation is another way of out-creating them in such a way that their energies can't stick and force an exchange of charge and polarity.
Yeah. So my go-to has always been non-judgment.
For the most part, non-judgment always works.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't entangle with it. That's it. And I think there was a big learning for me because I always, and that was the initial me, I always went into the understanding. And that was the thing that bit me, because as soon as you try to understand why people act the way they do, you're already entangled with it.
Empathetically entangle them if you're trying to understand them. And that's one of those false synchronicities we can create in ourselves where we're not realizing we're empathizing them to understand them.
Yes. And this is why I put that sentence in the beginning. If you think you won't be able to stand a world in which living is more important than understanding, then give up magic now.
Yes.
That is quite a cool sentence, really, because we got to get out of this understanding, because it really drags you all the way into the shit on many levels.
Most of the time, understanding is actually a very limited form of an experience. It's a micro thing that is a part of the creation of a greater memory. And oftentimes understanding is what leads us into curiosity learning, because we don't understand because we're using understanding in the wrong mechanical form.
Yes, and that brings us back to the limitation of consciousness and what language we're using, because understanding is a word that we are being indoctrinated with at school or anyway. What don't you understand? You're a fucking idiot because you don't understand something. Well, actually, are you?
Yes. So we're at the state, Martina, where we're going to want to take some callers and questions. Okay. So if you are in the Zoom chat room and have a question or have a conversation topic about what we've talked about today or last Tuesday, go ahead and raise your hand now. If you are listening on Facebook, YouTube, Zoom, Twitch, Twitter, or Periscope and want to be a part of the Zoom meeting and be able to be selected as a person to call in, here on the front of the screen is the information. Go to zoom.us. The meeting number is 911-001-1974. And if you are not on the internet and want to dial in via your phone and still be a part of the conversation where you still can raise your hand and still be a part of a caller, all the information is on the screen right there for you. So everyone that is currently in the Zoom chat room, we want you to go ahead and try to raise your hand so that you can begin to ask a question about today's subject matter. So, Robert, let's spin up the wheel of callers and see who is first.
Alrighty, first person I'm seeing is Hannah. You are unmuted with Andrew and Martina.
Hannah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know how I knew this was going to happen. I've been envisioning this for years. I would be remiss if I did not thank you, Andrew. I found you in an interview with Teal Swan at a time where I was wondering, this is crazy. Why is nobody free? Why am I doing stuff every day I don't want to do and everybody is doing it? And then I saw that interview with you and Teal Swan. Ever since then, you've been answering my questions. So today, my question is, I just had this realization that I'm effing up my life with judgments. I'm calling people out and, I just don't like what I'm seeing. I used to live in Olympia and moved up to the suburbs in Renton and had a baby. And I just feel like everyone's kind of turning against me, but I need to take responsibility because I've been too harsh in my judgments. And, it's just not the energy I'm trying to bring about. So maybe is it selfish? Maybe you could personalize the advice to me, or I don't know. Tell me whatever you think. I'm open.
Hold on, Hannah. I think Andrew's Wi-Fi froze up.
Okay, I'm here. I'm no rush.
Martina, you want to give a grab at that?
Yeah,
or a different
I'm just
perspective
wondering,
from
Hannah,
a teacher?
What is your question? I
So,
didn't exactly get the question.
So I let me make it a little bit more specific. So I'm in a mixed family, and I've never quite agreed with the ex-wife. And we're in King County, and there's the coronavirus. We're still in the first phase of it. And for instance, she went on a camping trip when there's supposed to be no social gatherings. So I sent a text saying, hey, like, we're still in the first phase of this. So I heard you may be going to a beach, but you know, that's not really part of the code. So thanks for taking our health seriously, kind of thing. And then my partner was all upset that I sent that text to his ex-wife. And then also I've been having a huge drama with this neighbor. She kind of went through a divorce, and then we were friends, and then something changed. And she kind of like told all my secrets to the ex-wife. And then, you know, this is largely a side problem because the biggest problem is in my primary relationship. And my partner has had
that? What is that in your primary relationship?
Yes, my partner has really had it with me, and I'm just trying to, you know, raise the frequency, and it's just hard because I feel like I'm doing it by myself, but I can't have that thought while I'm doing it, and I'm just really.
Is this? Yeah. So let me ask you a question there. Is this relationship still a contribution to you?
It is, because we have a son together, so I feel too overwhelmed to move out on my own.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we were talking about choice. Okay. So talking, you know, consciousness and choice. Consciousness is choice. So what other choice do you have here in order to create a different harmony, vibration, and frequency?
So the part that I really identify with is the non-judgment. I feel like I'm really struggling with that because, you know, it's kind of like I feel like I can imagine something better than what is, but I don't want to call.
Okay, so that, Hannah, would be a judgment in itself. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think the best way of looking at choices, you know, just looking what is actually happening here. When you go into this convoluted emotional, you know, which takes you out of all this vibration, frequency, and harmony, is just actually asking that question: what is going on right now, right here, and what else can I choose here? And you know, what if there is no answer to that right away? What if when you are in that situation where you're going into self-judgment about the judgment that, you know, you're probably being projected at as a judgment or all of that, just ask yourself the question, what other choice do I have here? And then really allow yourself to listen to what comes to that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I realized that I have been kind of looking at the big picture a little bit too much, and I didn't realize that I wasn't, you know,
you are a being of choice. You are a being of consciousness. You have choice at any moment in time. As soon as you get yourself back into that present moment we were talking about, and just really ask the question, what is actually going on here? Getting out of the story, and then allow yourself to, the answer will come as you ask the question.
So I'm back now. I had a power failure, so ironically. So I want to just pop in one little technique for you to begin to try. And that's you writing your own contract revocation on non-judgment and actually trying to make it 3 pages, like 1,800 words. Truly go to the edge of your capacity to be creative in revoking your judgmental states of being that you have. And use what Martina has talked about and what we've talked about in this show as your context to see the many different forms of judgment, subtle, aware, and unaware.
I will. Thank you so much, Andrew. Oh man, this is crazy. Thank you so much. I'll let you go on to the next caller. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in. All right, Robert, let's spin up the wheel of callers and see who comes up next.
Okay, next person will be Sylvia.
All right, I'm going to turn my video off right now, everyone, because I'm starting to have weird internet again in case we have another micro power failure. All right, Sylvia, are you there? Sylvia.
You hear me?
Yes, where are you calling from today?
From Croatia.
Welcome to the show. What did you think about what we've been talking about so far?
Wow, great. It's very complex theme. Actually, I couldn't be patient. I had friends around, but wow. And I was listening last show last Tuesday because I'm in Europe, so I'm watching only on Tuesdays live. So last time you were talking something about spiritual tactic. That term was really nice. I would like to expand on that topic. I didn't expect that I will be chosen now. Actually, I did, but so
spiritual strategies we were talking about in connection with the vagus nerve, isn't it? The construction sites and the speed limits and all of that.
Yes. I made it. I wrote it down, but at this moment I'm a little bit nervous. I don't remember. So you were talking about spiritual tactic, like something that we should have. If tactic is something that we should create consciously. But spiritual tactic is, I don't know, that term I heard for the first time. So I would like to know, Andrew, more about your perspective on that.
So spiritual strategy and tactics, they're one and the same. It's learning how to implement a set of experiences, so a set of experiences well-defined. Daily practice becomes weekly practice, becomes monthly practice, it becomes yearly practice, and the byproduct is hindsight and foresight, necessary skills. Hindsight allows us to see our previous tactics and strategies that have led us into a state of experiences that may not be beneficial to us. And foresight allows us to change our tactics and strategies so that an experience is well-defined and works for us. So the daily practice, weekly, monthly, is the first part of spiritual strategy and tactics. The second part is learning how certain tactics and strategies limit you. Now, there's a lot of people out there that just meditate. That's all that they do. All they do is meditate, and they become very mono-conceptual in their practice. And meditation will only take you so far into the generating of certain types of spiritual experiences. And there are other people that have light language spontaneously appearing in them, but they never consciously apply it as a strategy in an environment because they don't know what they're saying. So strategy is really about learning how to implement and then to adjust on the fly so we are not limited by that tactic or the strategy that we're going at. And the greater purpose of spiritual strategy is to understand there are ebbs and flows from the culture and the world around us that is dumping toxicity on us on a regular basis. So one of those fundamental tactics and strategies is spiritual hygiene. You know, every month the shit's going to come and the shit's going to come and the shit's going to come. What are you doing to stop the tidal waves of garbage flowing into you?
Yeah, energy hygiene is something that I think a lot about, and I was talking with my friends yesterday how it's interesting that everybody talk about it, but rarely ever somebody say exactly some energy hygiene practice. Um, except I don't know, chakra healing and chakra balancing. I rarely come in touch with something like that. And I was thinking, like, why nobody? There is a lot of any kind of healers, but rarely someone talks openly and concrete something about energy hygiene. For example, how to take your energy back after, I don't know, day in a city, or when you collect other people energy, how to spread around that
And
energy.
I'll give you the answer, because most of those other teachers don't practice it.
Uh-huh.
That's why people don't talk about it. And I'm one of the very few that takes it to the very highest levels of conscious application of your choice, that spiritual hygiene and daily practice is a fundamental part of self-mastery. There are
If I
plenty of
may,
self-help and motivational gurus out there that don't include spiritual hygiene anywhere in their 25 books that they've written.
exactly, exactly. Nobody ever. I mean, it's really rare. So I wanted to ask you, for in your opinion, what's the main important? Sorry, my English is not my native. So, what's the most important energy hygiene things that everybody should do every day? Like,
Four corners of your bed and your bathroom. Those are the two most vital things: where you sleep and where you look at your reflection and let go in the morning. And I've said this over and over again. Those are the first two. That's baby steps. If you want
okay,
to
so
take adult steps, your daily practice that has a weekly and a monthly practice has a strategy to not just protect the four corners of your bed, but the four corners of your bedroom, the four corners of your apartment or building that you're in, the car that you travel in, so that once a week, twice a month, something to that effect, you're taking time out of your linear day and making it a part of your monthly practice to include those places where you want to be consciously protected from external forces or the tidal waves of energy. When you go to work, there's a ritual to clear yourself before you go to work so your home life doesn't entangle with work. When you leave work, you clear your ritual to clear the work so it doesn't entangle with your home life.
So some kind of energy protection will be also some higher level of that energy
So
hygiene.
saging is that first level, and then the higher level is getting body work. Now, Martina, you've done lots of body work in your life, and you've met many people who've never had body work, but they think they're super spiritual. And what are they really?
Those are the ones you actually don't even want to treat, because you have to do extra spiritual hygiene on yourself, afterwards.
And I encounter that all the time. People that have a daily practice, but they never let down enough for someone to do extra work on them, get into those pressure points. So part of strategy is going, I need help every now and then. And part of this experience of life is experiencing the hands-on healing process, deep tissue massage, craniosacral therapy, acupuncture, so on and so forth. Letting people work on you, and then looking at your programs of why did I never let anyone work on me?
I just started.
I get it. So something else here before we move on to the next caller. Daily practice, that is the most important thing to practice. That starts at your bed so you can sleep effectively. If you are not sleeping properly or effectively, those are the first things you have to take care of. And then diet. Diet is vital. If you want to have spiritual experiences, you need fuel. Period. You need protein. 40 grams of protein every day. Start counting your protein. Those are the basic baby step stuff one can do to get on that journey to maintain high frequency, high vibration, and high harmony out of choice.
You mentioned light language. I think I'm one of those persons who spontaneously speak that. But I don't use it a lot because I don't know what I'm saying.
And you don't have to know what you're saying. That's the 1 million letter alphabet coming out of you, making a manifestation. And even if you don't know what you're saying, you have an empathic understanding of benefit or negative. And if you have no understanding whatsoever, then you want to consciously entangle with it and use it in a situation. I tell a lot of people who are getting light language to come out and they don't know what to do with it, point it at a program, point it at a self-defeating program, and just let it go for 5 straight minutes and then record it and go back and listen to it over and over and over and over again. You'll get something out of it. Like when you're learning a language, for the first time, it takes you a while to figure out how to conjugate, enunciate, etc.
So just to check I can just with intention, like I would like to, for example, clear a crystal with a language. It's just intention that is enough?
No, intention is the baby steps. Adult self-mastery behind that intention is the practice personality who knows what spiritual hygiene means and what implementation of strategy is.
Sylvia, if you are interested, just to chime in here, if you are interested in more in light language, I think you've got some programs, haven't you? Some shows that you recorded with.
I got a bunch of light language stuff there.
So if you go to Andrew's website, you can actually buy, I think 2 or 3 shows. I did that myself, and he gives quite a few interesting, little exercises you can work with.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to do one more call, and then we are going to get everyone set up for their homework. So, Robert, spin up the wheel of callers and see who is next.
Gabriel, you're next.
Gabriel, are you there?
Hello?
Hey, where are you calling from today?
I am calling from, well, I'm actually driving. I'm in Ontario, California right now.
Ontario, welcome.
I'm moving in.
Thank you. What do you think about what we're talking today?
Oh, I love it. I think last week's show was really full of dense information, a lot of stuff to kind of chew on and kind of go back to and try to figure out. Obviously, some of it is so dense that sometimes we can't wrap our mind around it. And today's stuff it's still very informative, but I'm finding I have an easier time wrapping my head around it and grasping it, except for a couple of concepts, which is why I raised my hand.
Okay, so what did you want to ask today?
When we were talking about vibration, frequency, and harmony, you got into the limitation or habit patterns, and you commented on a break in faith is a break in your responsibility. So when we're talking about responsibility, is this a contractual responsibility that we have through these contracts, vows, and agreements that we take on through the forgetting process, or are we talking about just like, hey, it's a common sense, you're responsible for yourself and your actions, or is it deeper?
Good question. So first thing first, faith is not a contract in any way, shape, or form. A breakage in faith may have contracts that influence that breakage in faith so that you can relearn the various subtleties of faith and how spirit, the divine source, works through you, as well as through your programs of self-defeat and etc., to lower your frequency and vibration during an era of history so that you have to consciously entangle and raise it. So spirit and faith are a choice subtly, and our ability to respond to faith is an internal action that determines if faith is broken or not. So is faith a choice? I'm going to put that to Martina so that we can expand upon it.
I think faith is a choice, yes, because it's part of consciousness and it's part of the responsibility of us being the architect of our reality.
But faith also has the sides of it that are non-choice. There are those moments where faith propels us onto the bridge of experience and puts us on the other side instantaneously, which gives us a powerful experience in light-based memory that we call metaphysical.
Okay. So expound on that a little bit more.
So, a near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
A person who was an atheist before, had a near-death experience, and they come out of it, believes in God, and has faith in the other side because they've had a direct experience. That cleared out all of the negative programming that is around the non-judgmental belief process. Okay. Another example, when one is on the daily practice but is not getting anything and goes long periods of time, but has enough confidence that practice will create an illuminated moment out of repetition. And then that repetition creates an illuminated moment that allows a greater sense of self-awareness.
Yes.
All those things can be faith at the non-agenda level. Our spirit and the divine source is working through us and is not working against us. It is our judgments and condemnments that make us think the universe is working against us.
And it's still choice. It's a continuation. It's a choice by, you know, it's still a choice that we have to make, because the universe is always entangled with us and is always working with, we so choose it.
Until such a time surrender to spirit is not even choice anymore, as much as it is a flow of an extended experience. Yes, we can choose to stop the experience at any time, but we don't.
Is that like karmic entanglement?
It can be. Yeah, it can be a karmic entanglement that's saying you're going through a breakage in faith and you need to relearn the power of faith.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for calling in, Gabe.
You're welcome. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay. So right now we are going to talk about our homework. Da-da-da-da-da. So everyone that is currently in the chat room right now and wants to understand the homework, what you have is a 8-page, 9-page document. Yes, pages. Oh my God, this is so much. It's spaced out. It's so much homework, I won't be able to do it. That is a self-defeating habit pattern ahead of time. Now, everything we have talked about is related in this document in some way, shape, or form. So what we want you to use this document, read it out loud and record it in your own voice more than one time so that you have two forms of you trying to read it. Now, many of you are just going to open the document, put on your recorder, and record. 1/3 of you will do a prayer ahead of time. The other 1/3 of you are going to jump in it and do nothing. And the other 1/3 are going to pretend like they read it out loud, but don't actually record it. So if you want the sticker and the smiley face, you got to read it out loud in a sacred state twice. How do you start a prayer? O great spirit who is here with me now, working with me and through me, I choose to make this a sacred moment. That's the basic level. And if you want to go for the double sticker, you do it in front of a fire. You do it in front of your altar space. Pull out your crystals. Sage yourself before. Do the spiritual hygiene practices we've just talked about. So you're implementing a strategy before you even do this document. Okay? Now, some of you have heard this before. You've heard me read it on other shows. Martina, you know this document well too, don't you?
Yeah.
So this coming Thursday at our 6 o'clock Eastern show, we are going to be following up on this document and another document that I'm going to be giving you that is going to go further into the celestial medium of peace. It's also going to go into the unvanquished great dream of peace. These are all other concepts that are going to help you advance your personal strategy into having spiritual-based experiences that help you expand and grow at an exponential rate. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to get myself set up and drink something. So I'm going to read this out, and then Martina and I are going to talk about it just at the end for a couple of minutes before we let you guys go. At the hub of interconnectivity, I unpack and decode the 1 million letter celestial alphabet for the express purpose of being the celestial medium of peace. I dedicate this to all there is, was, and ever will be. I am the excellence of execution with flawed perfection. I am man, hear me roar, meow. There comes a time for those destined for greatness when we must stand before the mirror of meaning and ask, why have we been given this courage? I am the mirror and the man. This courage is my birthright and legacy to this world. This is the fifth world of peace. We must look into our own eyes that are tired from the long journey through mediocrity. And that moment of self-discovery, many learn we are so tired of stagnation, so tired of repetition without our personal illumination. Our culture has become stagnant. Our society has become separate of reality for those living within the denomination of currency. A separation of humanity created by the money-driven caste system as a byproduct of world governments. Inability to actually do anything that helps people out of the stagnation or cruelty put onto them by the free market society. A system that uses free will to its advantage to create disadvantages for those who come to the future generations. Our parents and theirs before them had a vastly different life than those of the previous 1,000 generations. We have lost our way to create synthesis within our own selves. This speech is by design to challenge the readers and listeners in 900 degrees of separation from the creation of these words. Can you once again attain synthesis with yourself in this moment? Can you solve your greatest problem of attention and its deficit because our world screams with things that take us off course? Synthesis is not just a word, it is a state of personal freedom and awareness for growth within the patterns we create to promote our own evolution with our purpose and place in this world. When in the course of our personal human events, there comes a moment looking into the mirror of meaning when something looks back at us in the raising of one's awareness. At time when some ask questions of the self in reflection and others lose track of the moment, lost in their own petty, momentary need for mystical justification. It is those few who choose to dissolve old beliefs and habit patterns that create habitual abuse of the self who are the ones destined for greatness in a world of mediocrity. These self-chosen few know the full power of the self, and the laws of nature are gifts to us. It is our legacy and birthright to be in synthesis with all there is, was, and ever will be. Each and every one of us has the inner fortitude to face our self-created demons of mediocrity It will be choice and our ability to enforce our choices to last through the storm of self-doubt and self-deceptions. Each day, we challenge ourselves to become more than we were the day before. We pass on the legacy of the self to ourself, so our greatness will not be forgotten to the evolving waves of time. This moment, now, as you read or hear these very words, a vast, unseen world tunes into you, asking you to listen to the silence that expands your ability to know it, equal to this world and layered over it through the forms of thought and perception. You and only you can discern the silence and know how the unseen world speaks to you. As I write and speak these eternal words decoded from the 1 million letter celestial alphabet, all of you feel the churning of a wisdom you have known since the dawn of all your eternal births. The great remembering has begun. I know this because I feel you before this has ever been shown to another living person in the world. I have spread it to the rest of the uniworlds, layered over all forms of thought and perception for the express purpose of being the celestial medium of peace. In this, we as a species entangled with tens of thousands of other species no longer have to battle for meaningless control of infinite space. Fear is in the form of self-depravity, self-deception, and egotistical actions, redefines and drives so many in the uniworlds to do things unnatural to their way of being. We must face our fear of the unknown and know it is false evidence appearing real. We make it real, for we are the creators of our own reality. Too many of us hold false truths to be self-evident, appearing as real now, deforming our ability to store memories without our perception-deception filters guiding us with fear-based, actionable wisdom, driving us further into charge and polarity of living in the layered uniworld. As the creators of our own reality, our self-truths are incumbent on our ability to be vigilant and disciplined, holding them as self-evident now, without perception, deception filters guiding us back into fear, doubt, or the many vices of depravity. Many of us use belief, the greatest human power of potential within our ability to many of us believe the greatest human power of potential is within our ability to independently think, to choose our own goals and live our own dreams. Within the heart of humankind lives the natural instinct to know freedom. Here exists the independent psychological predisposition to chart our own course. This is a biological imperative directing us to grow. Choosing the spiritual joy through this biological imperative is the essence of our essence, being one with it as a part of us, as a programmable DNA instrument of awareness, as part of our choice-based system of belief, interwoven with the fabric of time-space reality. The history of our past actions all too often retells the tales of life's traumas, repeated without learning how to heal from them. A nagging unhappiness with our path, lack of clear purpose, or anything that does not promote us as conscious beings of choice who must go through the thick and thin of life's offerings from a world mired in mediocrity. Too many of our world cultures teach a blind desire to be judged worthy, lovable, accepted as a part of the pack of conformists. We must learn about our hero's journey, the step forward to do its great work regardless of the projections put upon by those around them, including loved ones who are still in the hypnosis of obedience and slavery. A hero's stance is frightening to those who unquestionably conform. You, as a hero, will not become subject to the tyranny of fools and the fool's desire to entangle with you in the fool's mission of self-deception. Too many of our species are lost to the abyss of unawareness, blissfully ignorant to all of nature's gifts within the joyous tick-tock of the now. We can no longer live in apathy of the moment of now. We must be present to reclaim our authority and its wonderful gifts that exist in the now, that we are given, that we have given away to the system of cultural mediocrity and deprivation of our own relation with nature. If you should choose to become a conscious being of choice in full awareness, your choice is yours to use, discard, or give away to others. You and only you can attain personal freedom from the conformists who demand you conform. This is a form of cultural hypnosis that uses pre- and post-cultural hypnotic suggestions, demanding you respond to the need of others, pulling you at every choice point, changing the course of your daily evolution into meaningless pursuits of false emergencies. This creates an inner detachment of our clear intentions and actions. Personal evolution becomes a TV series we binge watch, thus lessening our ability to even know synthesis. It is our birthright and legacy we must explore with a clear heart, clear mind, and knowingness. The world will demand you conform. We step into our greatness with these truths self-evident to our beingness in stages of action, reclaiming our power and authority to be ourselves without conforming to the whims and fancies of others, needing us to conform to their reality rules. All too often, mankind forgets the unnatural flow of our life path is the distant vision of death, driving us into choice points we adhere to with vigilant force. We stop our own evolution. The truth is, we only have these moments of now. The byproduct of this form of thinking is present in the moment-to-moment detachment from natural living. This is unnatural to the way of nature, a creation by man's need to make others conform to thought constructs and ideologies of the past generations, demanding we make them relevant to grow. All too often, mankind does not have vibrant awareness of its own emotions. Lack of emotion means one cannot feel the subtle energy that surrounds our body, mind, and spirit as a complex hologram of light encoded in memories, lifetime to lifetime. We must choose to feel again and again. Each time you make the choice to feel, allowing the raw emotions to help you define your course of action into your great work, so your great work can have a great impact on those you love. The choice to feel is your birthright and legacy. Each day we must challenge the gates of apathy and drive forward our hologram with full presence and the potential power of being in the moment of now. There are things inside us all that create self-sabotaging habit patterns. These habitual patterns take on the form of unhealed traumas, rearing their head during our times of internal crisis. Whenever we choose to be authentic with ourselves or loved ones, these patterns become programs of potent power from denial of our self-growth. Throughout the many generations of thinkers, they call these programs our internal demons. Our internal demons poisons the well of inspiration, turns hope toxic, and dispels goodwill into hatred, rage, and anger. Our destiny is determined in large part on how well we know our internal demons of self-doubt, self-deprivation, and how they use shame, blame, and guilt to distort our perceptions of people, places, and things, diminishing a potent power that can assist us in manifesting our dreams, desires, and needs so we lead a fulfilled life. How we battle them and choose to win each day will be determined by the metal you create within yourself. The path to self-mastery begins with identifying your internal demons and flipping the frequencies on their arguments for your limitation. Find your arguments for success and challenge your internal demons to go back to the recesses of your mind and sit in the corner, powerless to overcome your will to be a conscious being of choice in these moments of now. For if you do not defeat your demons, who will? The external will not save you. It will only make you conform to the global narrative. Many wonder why we cannot mature as fast as we could, seeing others leapfrog ahead of the pack of conformists when we ourselves cannot advance. We are stuck in pause, waiting and waiting for permission to declare our dreams and true intentions, struggling for what we want out of our life walk. We await the time of personal change to rise within us like a sexual stimulation, or for society to grant us permission to activate our inner genius and in turn activate the inner genius of others. This is the illusion and delusion all wrapped into a perfect enigma surrounded by the conundrum of lack of self-worth. We have forgotten courage as a choice and permission and impetus to move forward with bold, decisive action is not given by the global narrative or the impotent masses entrenched into mediocrity. To seek change is to go against the grain of those demanding conformity to ideological and cultural patterns of limitation, surely advancing to the unknown with a choice to make it known, letting go of fear, envy, and resentment, flying aloft on the wings of understanding, enjoying the reckless abandon of shedding off the conformist will to suppress your desires to know the unknown. It is your birthright and legacy as a conscious being of choice on the path to self-mastery. The bold and disciplined invite the need to grow. It is our savior from the fearful masses who will never hold their power until they too are faced with their internal demons and shed off the needs of the conformed masses who have forgotten that courage is a choice. What awaits them is the presence of choice itself and the potential power of living in the natural moment of now. At the edge of infinity, with my expression of being in the now, I unpack and uncode the unlimited point of view within my state of emanation. It is the valuable and variables I choose to emanate that defines me throughout history as a living, breathing manifestation of peace, of all that is, was, and ever will be. It is now that the moment of now understanding is uncoded with my internal pattern recognitions of the now, through the perspective of my eternal selves, within my moments of now that recognize and actualize all parts of myself as a precognitive workforce may flow through all there is, was, and ever will be. It is the actualization and valuation that drives forward my hologram of light. Aho. Whew, powerful energies. Whew.
Aho.
Yes, aho.
I yawned through the entire reading.
Any reflections, Martina?
It's just for me, it's just such a beautiful invitation, for us to choose beyond the limitations of this reality, and really look what else is possible, with being the celestial medium and the world that is out there. That is, if we give ourselves permission to open up to that world,
yes,
to that joy and bliss and interaction with all those different species and universes and galaxies, it's just so, for me, it's just so joyful.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. So we're going to end the show now. Why don't you give a way for people to get a hold of you, as well as how to get into your Wednesday meetings?
Oh, yeah. So get a hold of me. My website is www.syncholistic.co.uk. You can also get me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all those media platforms. And our collective website is www.earthnouveau.com. And we have weekly Zooms where we are exploring consciousness, and the coming up tomorrow will be all about synchronicities. So
you want to type them in the chat room also, so that people can have them there?
The websites, okay, we'll do.
Yeah. And for everyone, you know who I am. We have Galactic History 2.0 available now. So if you go to andrewbartzis.com/shop, you will see the Galactic History series there now. 40 plus hours of content for you for $88. It's one of those things that'll keep you going and help you get to the next level of what's going on in and around our reality. Okay? And Martina will put her information into the chat room here. And then Robert, can you put it on the show description in the YouTube side also?
You got it.
All right, everyone. This has been a special show. Now, your homework is to read this document out twice in a sacred state of being, and then listen to your 2 recordings at least twice. And then this coming Thursday, Martina will be back, as well as with my other mentorship student, Dave Farrow, who was on 2 weeks ago Thursday, in which we had a really intense conversation about a large variety of things. And we're going to go deeper into this concept of celestial medium of peace, as well as into other eras of advancing your consciousness. We ask everybody that you hit the like and share button. Go to your social medias. Spread this far and wide. All right, everybody. We'll be back this coming Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Each different bubble of reality is true. A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma. Nudge, nudge, it's the holy grail. Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychical intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
here. I didn't even have a chance to look yet. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, there was part of the show where I saw a post in your feed from Ben Rode on Twitter about wars and stuff, and then I went and looked at that and got stuck on Twitter for about 10 minutes, and it shifted my energy completely. But when you read the Hub of Interconnectivity, it just blew me away. I was like, okay, here's the bigger picture, thank you. I know, but today was different. Yeah, I can't look at the social stuff until I get done with my placard share. No, Ben Rode is a previous guest and someone that Andrew's connected with, and he posted something about just saying that the United States is at war, and then a bunch of people were contesting his viewpoint because they don't want to hear that they're at war with all the rioting and everything. But when you read the Hub of Interconnectivity, it's sort of like it puts it all back into perspective and back into choice. Like, bigger picture, yeah.